Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Monday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and last night the Mets failed to take the series from the Los Angeles Dodgers in about as Mets a fashion as possible. They end up giving up the game-winning run to a guy with a batting average of 183. Not only did he drive in the game-winning run, but he also scored the game-tying run. So, great night last night. But I'm going to talk about the Dodgers series. I want to talk about what happened on Friday. I want to go into a little bit more detail on what I'm calling Catchergate, and I'm going to preview this week's series with the Rockies on today's show. So, look, first and foremost, before we do anything else, it has to be stated that, look, the Dodgers are a really good team. They really are, and it's amazing. They're not a team of superstars in the traditional sense. They've got homegrown talent, very young talent. They have good pitching. Their bullpen's pretty good. It's just a good all-around team. And I'm saying it the way I'm saying it because I don't think the Mets are that far from putting together what the Dodgers have been able to put together very soon. All right, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but that's kind of the feel that I get when I look at the Mets and I look at where the Dodgers are. And yes, the Dodgers have a lot more young talent than the Mets have, but there's a certain mix of different types of players and different types of talents that the Dodgers bring to the table that I think that's something that the Mets are clearly striving to do themselves, and that they can do themselves. But the bottom line is the Mets dropped 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. Look, there's no shame in losing a series to the best team in the National League, although the Atlanta Braves would argue that their names should be considered for best in the league themselves. And they wouldn't have a hard time convincing people of that. But regardless, Friday night was a blowout loss, 9-2. Saturday was a successful deGrom outing and a successful bullpen closing the door behind him. And last night was a great start from Zach Wheeler and the bullpen not being able to make a one-run lead hold up. And that's the story of the series, really. And the story of the series coordinates with the story of the season, in that with a decent bullpen, this is a different team, and it's what we've been saying all year long. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Wheeler because, like I said, he was just fantastic last night. He gave up the one run, had 9 strikeouts, I think, through 7 innings. I was at the game last night. It was a lot of Dodger fans, in attendance. But it was a good atmosphere. I mean, it really was. It was the fans were, for the most part, pretty behind the team and pretty excited until, of course, Justin Wilson came on in the 8th and allowed the tying run to score, and then Seth Lugo in the 9th allowed the go-ahead and eventual game-winning run to score. So, look, these guys aren't going to be perfect all the time. They don't have 0.00 ERAs. They have low ERAs, both Lugo and Wilson. But you know, you can't be perfect every single day, and it just sucks that last night happened to be the imperfect time for the two of them. So, like I said, the Mets dropped 2 of 3 to the Dodgers. Real quick on Friday night, the Noah Syndergaard start. Syndergaard wasn't bad on Friday. He made a couple of pretty bad pitches, and the Mets Twitter went crazy, like Mets Twitter does, and throwing Wilson Ramos under the bus and saying he's terrible and saying Syndergaard's the worst and he's just terrible. And I'm sort of like just watching it unfold, and the way that I think about this whole situation is you have an employee, Noah Syndergaard, who is trying to perform better at work. And he's going to his bosses and he's saying, guys, look, I know I can be better than this. And I have some numbers to show that when these things happen, I am better than what I've been giving you. And I want to do better. And anybody that says Noah's selfish for doing this is a moron. There's no selfishness around asking for something to change to make you, the player, better. Because guess what? If Noah Syndergaard is better, the team is better. Period. And I completely get the people who are saying, yeah, I know he pitches better with Nido, but can we really afford to sacrifice not having Ramos' bat in the lineup? And a couple of weeks ago, one of my YouTube commenters said, Madwax said, it made sense to have that mindset when the offense was sort of scuffling and when guys were on the injured list. But now that the team is at what is effectively full strength, it's not as important to have Ramos' bat in the lineup. It's not as critical. Is he the better offensive option? 100%. But the way I look at it is this. So if Ramos sits when Syndergaard starts, you have Nido or Rivera as the starting catcher. And if Syndergaard is good, he's in the game for 6, perhaps 7 innings. And in those 6, perhaps 7 innings, he gets, the catcher rather, gets 3 at-bats. Are those 3 at-bats not had by Wilson Ramos better or worse than having Noah Syndergaard pitch 5 innings and then turning it over to the bullpen in the 6th? That's, to me, what it all boils down to. And you can point fingers at everybody and blame everybody and get all mad about this, but the bottom line is this is an employee who's going to his bosses saying, I want to do better, and here's some evidence to show that I can do better. Let's figure out how to get there. And I 100% agree with anyone that believes that Noah needs to figure out how to get on the same page with Wilson Ramos. There's no question about that. But at this present time, in the stretch run, where the Mets are still somehow miraculously vying for a wild card berth and a playoff berth, is it really the best time to be forcing Noah to figure things out and putting him into a position where he's going to pitch 5 innings and give up 3, 4 runs, 5 runs, 6 runs? Is that really what we want? Is that really best for the team right now? Or would we be better off having Noah Syndergaard throwing 7 innings, 2 runs, and then having Wilson Ramos available to come in and replace that starting catcher late in the game in a potential RBI situation? I don't know. For me, I think the latter is the clear option right now in the short term, but that the long-term answer is Noah, figure out how to get your shit together with Ramos behind the plate, because he's the best offensive option we have. He puts our team in the best position to win. And if you can figure out how to be on the same page with him and figure out how to win yourself with him behind the plate, that's better for everybody. In the meantime, Noah, and this is me being like Brody Van Wagenen or whoever, we're going to help you out with this. We're going to let you throw to Nido for the rest of the season. And let's see what the results are. Period. And then you know what you do with that? You appease the player. You take the quote-unquote excuse, which everyone is throwing out there, off the table. And honestly, the thing about that is that Syndergaard didn't make any excuses. Right? He didn't. He just simply said, my numbers are better with Nido and Ramos and Rivera. And they're not so great with Ramos. And that's a fact. He's stating a fact. Right? Like, he's not saying, Ramos is the worst. I wish he would get hit by a bus. He didn't say any of that. I think this is just overreaction. It's the leaky faucet that is someone in the front office that's spilling this stuff out there and trying to smear Syndergaard in an attempt to make it more palatable when the Mets trade him. And that's the sad reality to me of what I think is going on here. That this is a hack job by someone in the Wilpons camp who are trying to discredit Syndergaard and make him look like a bad apple and to get him out of town. And I hope that's not the case, because you're not going to replace Noah Syndergaard. You're just not. You can throw an arm in there, sure, but they're not going to be anywhere near the level of potential that Syndergaard himself brings to the table. So that's my little rant on the Syndergaard-Ramos situation. I think everyone just needs to relax and realize that everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants the Mets to win now and in the future. So, and there's no reason to sacrifice one for the other. right? So let's let Syndergaard pitch to Nido for the rest of the season. That would be my suggestion, and just see what happens. And if Syndergaard is able to go out there and throw in his next 3 starts, or 2 starts, whatever the number ends up being, if he's able to throw 7 innings, 2 runs, great. And then are you going to say, well, it's because he's pitching against bad teams like the Rockies, who, by the way, still have a really good offense, or the Marlins or the Reds? Is that going to be the excuse? I mean, because it seems to me like it's Mets Twitter that's making excuses, not Syndergaard himself. But that's it for that. So the Mets, as I said, play Colorado tonight. Shitty schedule, shitty on MLB, shitty on ESPN for taking last night's game, yesterday's afternoon game, originally scheduled for 1:10, and pulling it up to a 7:05 start. I much appreciate that myself, because I had the tickets while it was still a day game, and really was not looking forward to getting home at 2 a.m. last night and coming into work this morning, as I'm doing right now. But I can't imagine how much worse the Mets feel, because they had that tough loss last night, and then they had to fly overnight and get into Colorado early in the morning, try to get a couple of hours of sleep, and then get ready for a big game tonight. And look, the rest of the season, if you want to look at the math on this, Michael Barron did a tweeted about it either last night or this morning, about sort of like what needs to happen. And basically, if the Cubs go 10-3 from here on out, it doesn't matter if the Mets go undefeated. And he goes sort of reverses from there. So if the Cubs go 11-4, the Cubs go 9-4, the Mets have to win this many, and so on and so forth. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but if you want to get a feel for what that is, just check out what Michael Barron posted on Twitter. The series kicks off tonight in Colorado. Steven Matz on the mound, hoping to come off of his last excellent start with another one. Always suspect pitching in Colorado, but we'll see what happens with Matz on the bump tonight. I'm most concerned about Stroman in Colorado, and I'm hoping that he has his sinker working and he can keep the ball on the ground, because we all know how the ball flies out at Coors Field. Speaking of flying out, before I wrap things up today, Pete Alonso is in the midst of another slump. He's over his last 20. He is, I don't want to say he's pressing, but he's close to pressing at the plate. And I'm hoping that Colorado, and to follow it up by Cincinnati, is the tonic for him to get out of this funk. He's been stuck on 47 home runs for a couple of days now, and I think he needs to get off the schneid. And it would be great if he could do that tonight in Colorado. Because, look, the Mets are going to win when Alonso's going well. And when he's not, they're not. I mean, Alonso's the new Reyes in that regard, where it used to be, as Reyes goes, so do the Mets. I think Alonso's going to be falling into that category sooner rather than later, if he's not already there. And when he's not there to carry the offense, I'm not saying the team isn't talented enough to carry itself without Alonso's presence for a day or two, but they need him over the course of a multi-week span to string together the kinds of wins they need to finish this season out strong. And there's 13 games left. So 13 games left. The Mets are 4 behind. It's not over. It's not over. I will not give up until it's mathematically impossible. And that's just the way I am. So let's try to enjoy this series in Colorado. It'll be a late night tonight. Hopefully it's not a slugfest and isn't a 2:00 end game tonight, because I don't know if I can take it. But regardless, I'll be back tomorrow to recap it. Maybe looking more groggy than I do right now. Hopefully not, but we'll see what the story holds. Until then, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And as always, let's go Mets.